Yeah.
It's like over the Okay. All right, so welcome everyone. Today is August 2nd. We haven't done this in a while, and so I'm really excited about what we're doing. We're giving a chance for everyone this summer over $10,000 to basically get informed on what this opportunity is when it comes to selling through the Fair and Show Events program. So, I think the biggest thing, some of you are going to be traveling and leaving for school in other places, correct?
Yeah.
So you may not be automatically part of the next training with me, but the fact that you're here will give you an automatic position to be able to have a training somewhere else. Does that make sense? So it opens that door for you. And so whether you're going to be local this fall or you're going to be somewhere else, it's going to open that door. And you can ask me at the end how we can follow up with that for you in your respective next step after the summer is over. So when it comes to the Fair and Show training, this is not the actual training. This is more like an informational session so you understand what is possible for you, what is possible as far as like selling the Cutco product. Don't focus on that yet. I know it's like fun to look at the screen. So what's possible for you and where you could put yourself in a position to be part of our team, whether it's part-time or full-time. But at the end of the day, what it's going to do, if you make it to the end and if you make it to the next step, you're going to learn different set of skills for selling. Because at the booth, we sell the opposite way. People come to us because they go to a venue where a bunch of people are selling things, and they come to us, and then we have to pitch them. So it's a different kind of thing, right? You don't really set up appointments or things like that. You have to set up the booth, and you have to pay for that. So we'll talk about that. So there's a little bit of an investment associated with that, but there's a ton of upside, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. So I have been, as you guys probably know or remember, I've been in the business for 16 years in September. I've been doing the Fair and Show program since 2006. So I didn't start doing it until 5 years later. Now, there are many reasons for that. Number one, the program wasn't the way it is today. There were very, very few events that we went to, and we literally just collected leads and then follow up with them. Today, we sell a ton at the booth, and we follow up later. So it's a different program that we have all together. But I'll tell you something really funny. I was that rep. I was actually the last rep in the Eastern region. You could probably sit over here. There's two of you. Sorry. I was that rep in a region that said, oh, I know how to get leads. I know how to follow up with people. I don't really think I want to go and stand somewhere and try to get some orders. I was actually that person that was fighting people over that. And so what's interesting is that today I've completely changed. By the time that I did, they convinced me to do my first one. They said, hey, just try it out. Because at that point, there was no system. There was no program. None of this was happening. It was more, okay, well, there's some events. Do you want to try it? Do you want to try it? Do you want to try it? Nope, 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 nope. Do you want to try it? Nope, nope, nope. And then the people that were doing it started to sell to my customers at the booth. And then I was like, now I do want to try it. So it kind of opened up my eyes. I'm like, I want to be able to nurture my relationship with my customers, right? So I want to be able to be present. And I sold $9,000 the first weekend that I did a show without any training whatsoever. But obviously I had been selling for a while. I was at $400,000 in career sales. I did do a very, very small event at about 10,000. When I was at 10,000 in career sales, I did a small event, and that's when they used to just collect leads. But I still sold like $500 in one day, and I collected some leads and made some customers. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but no thanks. And then later on, I realized what it was. It took me 4 years after that to do it. So what I'm trying to share with you guys, what the program used to be before is not what it is today. Today, people fight to do shows. Like it's very competitive to be able to get on the show schedule. Like we have very established CSPs that sell, like have people that come to the booth every time at shows. So it's a very competitive thing now. And we'll talk about how to get on the show program and also how to be able to get on the schedule of the show program. So, but it's fun. And that's the thing that's really cool about it. One of the upside is during the push, for example, you guys heard I sold 95% of my push was to past customers. Probably 60 to 70% of those people, I met them at a show. So it's what's interesting about that, just to kind of put it out there for you, what's interesting about that is that people come to a venue to look at what people have to offer, right? And so when they do that, they're kind of a little bit in the buying mood, right? Some of them are not, some of them are. But they're used to coming to you to find out what you have to offer. So when I do a lot of marketing during the summertime and I send them this, they're used to responding to me to actually get the orders versus demos where I have to, follow up with them a lot more. So again, what's interesting about shows, it's a different way of selling, but it only hones your skills as a human, not just in Cutco, of being able to sell people in different settings. Does that make sense? So one of the things that I want to talk about is our mission. So this is some of the things that we live by in our division. You hear all the time from Jeff about the anchors, the 4 anchors of the division. So we have a mission in our Fair Show team too. And the mission is to develop a team of Cutco sales professionals of the Florida Caribbean area. When people come to a booth, they know that they can count on service, sales expertise, and follow-up. So like I said, you get a venue, people come to the venue, we want them to be extremely impressed by what we do, the way we greet them, the way we talk to them, the way we sell to them, and the way we also follow up with them. It's kind of like the same thing. If you're a manager, you want to be extremely professional when people come to the office. I'm sure you realize Luke is professional. He shows people when he's doing an interview. All of that is kind of like the same thing. It's the same anchors every single time. We do have a vision as a team. So that's something that's kind of cool. And so if you, by the way, whether you're gonna, most of you are hopefully going to get approved for the TLA program this fall. And this is something that, by the way, could help you get your sales up, which should also help your withholdings up and put you in better position. So that's one of the things that like Jeff and I really worked on, because it can only help you be better. Does that make sense? And which, by the way, when you become a manager, you can also teach people how to do those things too, right? You can be an all-around, very, very knowledgeable manager. So the vision is to have a 25% increase this year. And that may sound like it's not a big number, but believe me, when you've been doing certain things already and you've tried a lot of different events and venue, 25% is actually very hard to do. It's actually very rewarding when you can do 25%. So our goal is to do $250,000 this year. Last year we did $200,000, $193,000, and our territory basically covers Fort Myers area, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami, and Puerto Rico. So if anybody ever wants to be in that position and go to Puerto Rico to run an event, we have that too, and that's kind of fun. I've done it. So $250,000 for the booth sales for this year, and $350,000 in service call follow-ups. That would put us at a $600,000 division for the year. So what does that mean, $350,000 follow-up? It means that we're expecting to sell, like let's say you go and you run an event and you sell $2,000 at the event. We expect that you can sell $3,000 on follow-ups from that event. Does that make sense? Yes. You can sell even more on follow-up from that event. So that gives you a total of $5,000 that was created from that event. Make sense? So my conversion ratio, we call that a conversion ratio, is 150%. So basically, if I sell 200,000, I'm going to sell let's say it's 100,000, then I'm going to sell $150,000 on service calls, right? That's how much it would be. And we track all those things, by the way. I collect all the information from everybody. We have a spreadsheet. People put their results. It's really fun. For those of you that like numbers, anybody here likes numbers? So like it's cool to be able to see the spreadsheet and see what happens. And if we have time, I'll show you guys our spreadsheet, current spreadsheet. Past results, like I said, $193,000 was at the booth last year. And I think we did somewhere around 290 on service calls. So it's pretty good, but we want to get it higher. Right now for this year, we're exactly at 100,288. What's really cool about a tracking system is that all I had to do this morning is go to the spreadsheet and found this number. I didn't have to calculate anything. It's already there, right? So that's what's really nice. Long-term vision, I think it's going to be to maximize our territories. And right now, we are pretty good in the Miami and Fort Lauderdale. We have about maybe 2 to 3 openings. And then Fort Myers about the same. Puerto Rico might have like a couple too. And so we're going to try to work on that as well. So the long-term vision is to have 15 people on our Fair and Show team. And right now we're 5, 6, 7, 8, we're about 8 people right now. So basically doubling. And believe me, it's something where what's cool about the Fair and Show program is that you get to spend more time with me too, and the other CSPs. Yeah, so there's like selling in your environment, making money. We love that. So what's this meeting about? One more time, the meeting is about all the information that you need to understand what the program is, and then if you qualify and you're around, the training is probably going to be in September. So depending on if you're here, if you have a conflict, you might be able to Skype in for the training after we have an interview and we break it down, or you might have to be involved with like another area's training. Does that make sense? Okay. So just wanted to give you kind of like a little bit of the team right now and who we have. So obviously I'm the coordinator, and so CSP, also Hall of Fame member, events coordinator. I'm at 2.8 million in career sales. The next person below me is Darren Barnes. Darren is actually, I developed Darren in the Fair and Show team, but when they restructured the division, he's actually not part of our division anymore, but he's been in our division for so long, so he actually is part of 2 divisions now. So he does part of his events here and part of his events in the Atlantic division. So he's at 1.5 million in career sales. Jordan, which you might have met, also counts for this office, is at 711,000. Mariana, which you probably heard of, seen, also for this office, 568,000 in career sales. And then Taylor Maps, which you guys probably heard from at the conference, is at $450,000 in career sales. This is in order of the career sales. And then we have a second tier. So this is our first tier people. So everything by seniority goes to those people first. And so we kind of have a seniority system, which is you pay your dues and you earn those spots, right? However, if you don't keep on performing, somebody might swoop up a little bit. So to give you guys an example, one of our major requirements is to sell $30,000 for the summer before July 31st. So they all did that, so they don't have any problems. But last year, one of them didn't and missed it. So they lost their show that they've been doing before. And what's interesting about that, you know, that person was very sad and frustrated that they lost their spot. But this year is having their best summer ever, already beat their best summer ever, and is probably going to win the summer payoff trip for the first time. And all of that because of my freaking requirement. I love that. So it was an awesome conversation. I know he hated me last year, but this year was super happy because he's already ahead of the game. And sometimes standards really help elevate us, right? Keep the questions for later. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay, cool. So
I was cracking on that.
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Yeah. Second tier is Yvonne. Yvonne is in Puerto Rico. So the reason I put her, she's at $1.4 million in career sales. The reason I put her second tier is because she's second tier from this area. Okay, but when she's in Puerto Rico, she's first tier in the area of Puerto Rico. Does that make sense? On the third tier, we have basically we call it an in-training or backup plan. So we have Gavin, who's on the West Coast right now, and Keith, who's one of my friends that came down to Miami because of me. He's actually a consultant for another program that we have called the Federal Program, where we sell to the federal government. I'm a consultant with that with him. So he's kind of like a backup because he spends most of the time doing the federal program where we sell on base. So that's something that could be available for people too in the future, but you have to, earn that spot before you can actually go sell on base. Customers on base are actually really fun, and the average order is very, very high. So that's something that's really cool. So what do we look for in our staff? So that's something that you probably want to write down some of those things. Number one, we like team players. I mean, we all know that we're as weak as our weakest link, so are strong as the weakest link. So a team player attitude is extremely important to all of us. If somebody is not a team player and always thinking about themselves, they have several conversations with me that could lead to getting kicked out of the program. We have a very high retention rate on our program. So most people that get on our program, we haven't had one person quit in 4 years. So, and the last person that quit, I kicked them out, just so you guys know. So once you're in, you're in. It's kind of how it is, but you have to be really in though. So, customer service mentality, that's a big thing for us because we take the approach of giving our customers the best possible, right? So it's about showing them that we're there for them, we're thinking about their needs, and then the rest just happens. Remember, it's a venue where people come to look at what people have to offer. So they don't want to be like push to buy. They want to be educated, and then they want to buy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So service call training, service call experience, that is something that at a certain level we teach you how to do service call. Who here knows how to do a service call? Most of you don't, which makes sense. That's okay. If you don't know how to do service calls, please don't try to sharpen the people's knives and ruin them. Help them send it back to the factory if you have to. It's not good for you. It's not good for them. It's not because you try to do it and it feels cool and that you should keep doing it. Give our customers the best of the best because you got to think about we are all in this together, right? When I do a great job at the booth and I make the product look good, when you go to people's homes and they see that, they hear from their friends, it helps them. When you do a good job at home, when they come to the show, they hear, oh, my friend just bought Cookware from this college student, right? We are all in this together. Whether you are at a booth standing up representing the product or you're in a home representing the product, we're all influencers of each other's business. Do you guys understand that? So it's very important. So cookware knowledge, that's something that's very important as you get possible in the Fair and Show program. You want to be knowledgeable about everything that we offer, right? Because people might want cookware. They might be more interested in cookware than knives right now. Because when they come to those shows, they might, they have projects. People like in their house, when they come to a home show or things like that, they have projects that they go through, right? And they're like, oh, this year we may be looking at cookware, right? So they may be more interested about cookware this time around than knives. So you want to be prepared if you're ever in that situation, which, by the way, is relevant for you even in the home, right? People sometimes are more excited about investing in cookware right now than they might be in knives. Well, good news, we offer that, right? So we offer the cookware too. The business gift program is another avenue that we sell the product. Our number one rep of all time was over $7 million. 95% of his business today is all to businesses, where they engrave the logo of the business. Who's heard about that before? Okay, you've all heard about it. Now you have to get...
What's your problem? I'm sick of you.
Me too.
Me too.
So you have to have, you have to be qualified to do that, and you have to get trained for that. But what if somebody comes and asks you about it? Don't just say, I don't know. Find out, right? Because you never know. Like when I was like $10,000, $15,000 in career sales, I got a $3,000 order. That was a business gift order. And all I did was just talk about it. And then the interest was there, and I followed up with the people that knew. So always be prepared to find out the answers. If you want to know more about the Business Gift Program, it is under Vector Connect, under Business Gift Program. So look for a little bit of that so you cannot roll all those orders, though. As a rep at your level, you cannot roll the order. You have to do it through the office. Okay? Very important. Or you can ask one of the managers to help you. Something that's very important, people need to understand that the show program is not it's not an entitlement. It's a privilege. Because unfortunately, there's not millions of shows. Does that make sense? There's a limited amount of shows, and everybody has to fight for that, basically. So what we've come up with is policies. We have policies in place that can help create that system, the system of seniority, area, and performance. That's what gets people on top of the list to be on the schedule. Does that make sense? So, and I will tell you, if you at all like the idea of a program, the sooner you talk to me about it, the better chances you have, right, of keeping that option open. Honesty and integrity is obviously like extremely important. We have a team, and like I said, we represent each other. It's important to be honest. I don't care if you screwed up. Tell me about it. We'll fix it together. It's better that way. Don't hide it to me, and it becomes a bigger problem, and then now I can't resolve it, or it's going to cost 5 times the amount of money. Does that make sense? I'm a very, very like easygoing as long as there's communication. That's it. If there's no communication, then I'm not happy. Then you see my other side, my grandmother's side. You don't like it. Take my dad's side. It's the good side. So, product knowledge, you definitely want to have product knowledge. And that's like, you know, without saying consistent sales outside of the show program. So there's 2 reasons why we do that. Number 1, because it helps you get ahead of other people. Because obviously, if you're more committed, if I'm the coordinator, who should I give the chance for people to work? The person that's like lazy, not doing anything, waiting for the next show, or the person that's constantly performing? Constantly performing. I mean, that's just the reality. So consistent outside sale. Also, because shows cost money. Like, I'm not going to sit down here and tell you that it doesn't cost money. It costs money. It's an investment. But the investment pays off in the short run and in the long run. I mean, my biggest show, I paid $1,200 to be there for the weekend. I haven't sold anything. I paid $1,200 before. Like, the show is $2,400, and there's 2 people, so we each pay $1,200. We're also going to buy food for cutting and all that stuff. Now, most events are not that expensive, but that's the highest one right now, right? We have events that are $10,000, but we have also events that are $50. The events that are $20, 50 events that are $100. For anybody that starts in their first 6 months and all that, those are the events that they're probably going to do. We don't want to risk it for them to go out and pay for $500. They haven't sold anything. They're freaking out. They've never done it before. And then they're like, oh my God, please buy something because I got to get $500 to pay for this place. We don't want that to happen to any of you. So it's going to start lower, right? But as you get bigger, but the thing is that the higher the investment, the higher what? The reward. So even though my show is more expensive, but there's more people, it's a bigger event. So that's where I want to be. Now, I got to tell you, me, I'm the person, I'm the go-getter. You guys probably figured this out, right? So when the first show I've ever done, that was a $2,400 show. And, you know, like when he said, well, it's going to be that much, I was like, all right, let's do it. I know how to sell Cutco. Let's do it. So I was freaking out, but I'm going to do it anyway. Why not? So $9,000. So It was fine. Bonus every month. That is a requirement to be on their show team. And, you know, just like I said earlier, one of the reasons we have those requirements, it's not just because it does anything for me. It means nothing to me if you don't get bonus, right? Your pocket's going to be hurting, not mine. But if you're going to be on my team, I don't want your pocket to be hurting. Because if your pocket is hurting, then you're not going to perform, right? So it's a vicious cycle. When people have money in the bank, they go and they're like happy. And they cut stuff and have fun and they sell stuff. Right? When they don't have money, though, they're like, try this. Look, just do it. People don't buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why I want the pockets to be good. And so that's why I want to have a standard when they reach bonus. So they have to sell a certain amount every month. And the minimum is $4,000, right? Because that's when you get you first start getting bonus. So you have to sell $4,000. Otherwise, you're going to lose your shift that you have for the following month. We're very strict about that. So that's very important. We don't want people's pocket to be hurting. I'm a finance major. That's why I studied in college. I've always been paying attention to that. And so I would not expect anything less from my team. So how do you get on the team? Possibly. There's a lot of you guys. I would love to give all of you guys an opportunity. It's not going to happen, though. I'm just being real. Otherwise, we'll be fighting. You'll see like T-Max and Mariana and everyone. No, no! So, but it's going to be fun when we get to that point. How do you get on the team? You got to purchase a training kit. It's being revamped right now, and it's roughly about $50. So I'm not letting anyone buy any of it yet until it gets to the point that I feel comfortable sharing it with you. Like I said, I don't want people to spend any money that they don't need to spend. That's very big on my team. And we're probably going to get, we're going to probably make it as cheap as possible. As long as you have the information, that's what's important. Number two, to have an interview with me. So once we go through the funnel and we find out, are you going to be in this area? Are you committed to this? Do you like the idea? You don't have to be committed to it. Do you like the idea? Do you want to go through training? Then we'll have an interview together, and I'll find out if it's something we should take the next step with, right? The other qualifications, $10,000 is to go to the info meeting, which is this one. $20,000 is for you to be able to go to the training in September. $30,000 is for you to work a small event. Sometimes we'll let you still go and train with somebody else and watch. But for you to be able to sell on your own, you're going to have to be at least at $30,000, bare minimum. Bare minimum. And $50,000 to work by yourself. And that could be a little festival. That could be a farmer's market. You guys ever been to a farmer's market? Farmer's market creates sales. Sometimes people go and they sell like $1,500. They're only like $20 to $50, and then you get more leads. So you get like, you sell like 500 to 12 to 1,500, and then you get more leads. Those are like the cheap events. That's probably going to be a good way to start some people. But with proper training, they can work by themselves. In the meantime, they will have to work along one of our tier people to learn, to practice, and to get comfortable. We're not going to throw you to the wolves by yourself. So don't worry, we're not doing that. Field training. So field training, you have to have a day at the booth with me and a day at the booth with a core group leader. Most of the time, the day at the core group leader happens before the day with me. Most of the time. Because I travel a lot and they're more local and they do actually more events than I do. So, but if you have to, at some point within the first 6 months, definitely spend a day with me. Actually, it needs to happen before you ever work a show with another team member. You have to at least field train with them without selling. You just go and watch. Does that make sense? And then based on how that goes, then you might be able to work a small event with them. And then to ever get to work an event by yourself, you do have to spend that day with me. I need to know what's going on so you can ask me questions and we can spend that quality time that can help. And then of course there's audio and videos, and you have to study and memorize. Some of this is we have the book that has all kinds of approaches, and during training we're actually going to role play that too, and it's super fun. You actually get some really cool tips on how to sell even in the home through this, which is beneficial. So anybody got this? Cool. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about field training, you guys don't need to really write this down. When the day comes, you'll be reminded. Don't worry. What to know, your approaches, and your prices. You guys see that? Prices. How much is a flatware chest?
$13.39. If you're not adding the 6-piece serving tools, if you got 6-piece serving tools, it's
$95.
$15.95.
Good job. All right, so what to bring? Comfortable shoes, cash for lunch and parking. Sometimes you don't have to pay for parking, but some places you do. Like if you're going to work with me, you're probably gonna have to pay parking, because unfortunately most of the events that I do, they charge for parking. Notebook, so you can get all your notes, and the schedule, and of course a positive learning attitude. The schedule, so you can always communicate on what's next. So be organized. We'll remind you of this the day that happens. So just kind of have an overview of the benefits of differential training. Number one, it builds your customer base quickly through orders at each event. What does that mean? Well, when you're doing an event, you get a lot more orders in a day, right? You might get 5, 6, 7, 10 orders in one day. Some of them might be just a cheese knife. It could be $200, then a homemaker, right? You have like different averages. By the way, you think you've ever had like a lot of no sales in one day? Within an hour, you might get like 5 no sales. But they're like mini no sales. Does that make sense? You spent like 10 minutes with them and they're like, no, thank you. And then you got to do it again. It's so crazy how strong you become, because you get like a bunch of mini no sales and then you also get a bunch of sales, right? But you're also adding 5, 6, 10 customers potentially per day that you can in the future market to. Those are the people that I market to. Like I sent 2 postcards to my customers during the push, one for sharpening and one for sales. And that creates a lot of business because I have a lot more customers because of the booth. So gather warm leads to follow up with after the event for service. So not only you sell at the booth, but we also ask for service calls. If people want to get the knife sharpened, we tell them that we offer that locally, and then you can follow up with them. And guess what you can do when you get there? Sell them some more stuff. Yes, we love that. Okay, so opportunity to learn from the most elite sales leaders in your division, like I said earlier, and of course, gain a new business, sales, and communication experience through interacting in a new business environment, because it is a very different environment. It's very thrilling, actually. And you meet like a lot of business owners, right? If you ever work an event, you'll meet a ton of people that have seen Cutco millions of times. They love it. You'll never have so much pride like selling Cutco than when you're at the booth. Like I can tell you stories after stories after stories after stories of ladies that are like 80 years old, some of them in a wheelchair. Like I remember one lady one time, she's like sitting on my booth in a wheelchair and she's crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? And her husband's pushing her wheelchair. And she's like, honey, we've had these knives since we got engaged. And they were like, she's like crying. She's had them for like 55 years. I'll never forget that lady. But that happens all the time when people come to the booth and they're like excited. They get you excited about the product more than you already are. Like by times 10. They think they know more about the product than you do. They try to sell it to other people, which is always great because people listen to other customers more than they listen to us, right? Because they know we're supposed to say that. So there's something really, really cool when you're behind an event. So this is my current booth. I wish I would have taken a picture of my old booth. You guys are spoiled. You're getting like the good stuff. I spent a lot of money recently to revamp it. I got my own tablecloth. This sign would cost like $1,000. And then all these other things. You guys won't have that in the beginning. But don't worry. I didn't have that for years. I just got that like 2 years ago. So keep getting things better. So you have the flatware chest over here. I have all the sets here. This booth actually is a double booth. So we almost have like for me and for Darren. This side is mine. I recognize this. So this side was mine, and this side is Darren's. So I had everything done like, for me. Even like the carpeting, it is all done. And then we have a little wellness spot right here. pretty much everything that you could sell. We have some sets in the back. We have some sets in the front. We're like the store, right? When people say, "Do you have a store?" Yep, that's the store. So that's our store. This is me just after selling. That was a signature set right here, and with this very young couple. This is Darren, if you've ever met him. And I'm holding onto this card. This card is actually a really cool card. I forgot to bring it. It's a referral card. So I actually give it to people, and they earn like $50 or $75 of free Cutco if they refer me to somebody and they buy a certain amount. And it's part of my card. So I hand those out with people, only people that buy, because they're more excited to give it to people, right? So that's my referral card right there, and they just bought a signature set. So this is another type of event. This is a kiosk at the Galleria Mall. Who's been there? Okay. You used to work at Galleria? So this is Mariana right here. She's working the booth with me. And so this is actually a kiosk. And see, we have all the cookware in the front. I have like a little setup, like a place setting. There's actually flatware in here. So I think it's the traditional flatware that's discontinued now. The stainless flatware, the sets on both sides, some decoration, some sets on the top. We do that for 2 weeks during the holidays in different areas. Huh? It is really nice. It is actually really nice. You know, sometimes you're proud of something that you've done. That's one of them. So, there's lots of love putting in there because it becomes like my home for like 2 weeks. And then I usually sell about $30,000 at that booth in like 10 days. So, and lots of like really good referrals too. Uh-huh. Melissa Milroy?
Yeah.
You know her?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would marry her if she wasn't married. She's awesome.
I know.
I've been working with her for a very long time.
Yeah, she told me.
Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. She's absolutely awesome.
Forgot her with high school.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what are the expectations? Be professional, be respectful, be punctual. Punctuality is probably more important than anything else. You are a professional, you're representing the product. So if you ever put in a situation where you're representing the product, you want to be punctual. I go to the booth an hour before the time. I plan on being there an hour before the time. So there's no excuses of traffic or accidents or things like that. I'd rather drive there, be there, do some extra work or whatever else I could do, make some calls, make some follow-up, check emails, do some personal stuff, but I'm already there. Does that make sense? And that is the way you should do everything, by the way. That's the way I do my appointments. When I'm done with an appointment, I drive close to the other appointment, and I sit there in the car, and I get stuff done, always on time. There's nothing more powerful than being on time. Nothing more powerful than being on time. Like that guy that I saw during the push, whose wife was dying, and he bought $5 grand from me. Like when I got to his house on time, he was like, literally, he did like this. I'm like, why are you shaking? He's like, you're on time. Most people are never on time here. I'm like, I know. I am from Miami, but I was raised properly. So thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. So lead generation is second. So why do I say that? Back in the day, we used to have, we want leads, and we would not sell as much on the spot. The idea is to sell as much on the spot. Why would you want to sell as much on the spot? Can anybody tell me?
At least that's guaranteed. So it puts them in that mentality, gets them more excited for the call.
Very, very good. So last one.
And everything's so fresh from demonstration.
Yeah. So it's all of what you said, right? So it's guaranteed. So it's going to cover the booth, right? So you know you're going to break even and more. And then now you're going to be excited to do all the follow-up and you're ready to go. So yes, that's why you want to be lead generation second. You want to sell on the spot. Don't be a little, you guys know the word. Selling first attitude. Okay? We got to sell first. 100% follow-up service. Before me, there was there were other people in the area that would collect leads and never follow up with them. It took me 2 years to kind of clean that up, where people would come to events and complain about the fact that it never got follow-up. Today, it's still very hard because I travel and all that stuff. I try to prepare people that there's a certain time there's going to be follow-up, but I still find a way, even if it's later than never, it's better to follow up. You have to follow up. But I'll tell you, service calls that you get from events, they become stale. They're not like demo leads, because demo leads, they're still friends with the people, right? Even if they give it, sometimes people are like, well, my leads are stale. Well, how are they stale? Do you think that person is not friends with them anymore? I mean, that doesn't make sense. What do you mean they're stale? I've caught people from like 3 years ago I got referred to them. Unless the people fought and they're not friends anymore, right? They're going to be stale. But when it comes to the events, the follow-up, the people are expecting professional work, right? So when you don't follow up with them within the first 2 weeks, or you didn't prepare them that you were going to follow up with them in the first 2 weeks or after, then they kind of like, they might have even sent their knives back. Because now when they saw you, it got triggered that they could get their knives sharper again. If you don't call them, they might send it back after a month, right? Now you can't go see them anymore. So that happens all the time. And so you lost that lead. Now you not only lost the sale, but you lost a customer that could have become a customer for you, right? That could have bought and bought and bought. Like I can tell you stories about people that I sold like $500 to, and then later on went to their house and sold them $4,000. Like within like 3 or 4 months. Just those things happen. So 100% follow-up service immediate. Participation in setup and tear down of the booth. So when you're working a show, there's something called setting up. You have to set it up, right? So it's not like you just show up and everything is nice and beautiful like you saw my booth. If that happens, then you have to pay for that because the other person worked to get that prepared for you. So like, for example, when I first started doing shows, we had another coordinator down here, and he actually loves setting up the booth. And I had to pay $50 to set up and break down. I just paid him. But that's me. I've always been like a business person. I'm like, I don't mind like paying because I know I can use that time and go and sell like $1,000. Does that make sense? Because that takes like 2 hours to set up. Most of our team, they do go and set up the booth together because you are more prepared for the event. You don't want to set up the day of. You want to set up the day before. So usually, like, let's say the event starts on Friday. You might go on Thursday night or Thursday morning, and you set up your booth. You don't leave all the products out, though. You just set up the tables and the tablecloth, and then later on, you can, like, follow up with that and be done with it. Does that make sense? And you can go to the next day and work. You're ready to go and rock and roll. But if you have an emergency, and you can't come to set up, and you communicate with your other team member that you can't come, you got to pay for $50 for setup and $50 for breakdown. It's 2 different charges. And, you know, you could say, well, does it really cost $50? No, it doesn't. But it's annoying when you're the only one doing it. So we all agree that it's $50 worth of annoying. Does that make sense? Yeah. So also there's a $25 for the display kit that you'd be using. Until you invest into your own display, we're going to have one display that will be for the whole team. I have my own display, Taylor, Max, Mariana, Jordan, even Gavin, Darren, everybody on our team right now has their own display for everything 100%. They probably spent anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. So, but a lot of it is over time, right? You can start as little as like $500 and get some things together and be able to do it. But if you don't have that, we're gonna have a display kit, and you have to pay $25 every time that you rent it. If there's stuff missing, though, guess who's got to pay for that? You. So watch out of the booth. There's some people that think that they might deserve the knives more than you, and they steal stuff. So make sure that you're always watching. You'll be on your phone. You're always watching the booth. Be honest and act with integrity, and of course, plan to grow. Okay, so a little bit more on professionalism before the event. So what are you going to need to do? Memorize all your approaches. That's easy. You guys don't have to write this down. Role play with other teammates. Practice during off times. We're going to do that during training, and then you'll know exactly what you need to practice. Does that make sense? It's very easy. Let me just to show you something cool. Let's say you have the Cutco owner. What is that? New customer. So let me practice with someone. You like it, don't you? Okay. So hi, are you familiar with Cutco?
Yes.
Yeah. How long have you had it? I mean, do you have some or?
Yeah, I have one knife. I've had it for 2 years, I think.
Oh, cool. How did you get it?
My daughter's friend sold it, so I just bought it.
Cool. Okay, so now that's the Cutco owner, though. I wanted a non-Cutco owner.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so hi. Are you familiar with Cutco? Have you heard of Cutco?
No, I have not.
Oh, really? Well, you're up for a treat today. Can I take you a quick minute to show you what we're all about and why we're known as the world's finest cutlery? Bam, and then you start doing it. We have the whole approach. It's right there. You guys can memorize it, and it's all here. It's easy and done. The beauty about it, when I started doing this does not exist. Just have to do trial and error. Hi, you heard of Cutco? Oh, cool. Well, let me show you something. That's how it was when I started. But today, we have this. So that's what's amazing about growth in our program. So role play with other teammates, practice during off times, and it's really fun when you guys are going to practice. You're going to see that. 100% follow-up after each event is over expected. I put this down a second time because I want to make sure you guys understand how serious that is. Find info about events you'll be working on the internet. So once you would be making it to an event, you want to know all the information. What are the times? Where do you park? Like all those things. You don't want to get there and then you have no idea what's going on. Oh my gosh, where do I go? Who do I park? Who do I call? I'm at a show and you're calling me. Andy, what do I do? I'm like, did you do it before the event? That is going to be my first answer. So just be prepared for that, right? Because that's very important. Find out about the hours, parking arrangements, passes. And then, of course, communicate with your division coordinator. I know that sometimes it's easier to communicate with another team member or somebody that's on the first tier but below me. Easier to talk to Taylor Max or Mariana or Jordan or somebody else. But when there's something serious, you got to come to me. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to make the final decision. Does that make sense? Yeah. So make sure that you don't take everything that I'm the one that's liable for what's going to happen. Because one of the things that every event that you guys will work, my name is on the contract. I'm the one that approved it. So if there's like a big problem, guess who they're going to call? Me. So don't talk to somebody that won't be the one liable, but then I'm going to be having the liability. Does that make sense? Okay, so arrive at least 1 hour before opening to set up the booth. When you're not opening, arrive at least 30 minutes early. So let's say somebody else is opening. So what we usually do is that we create kind of like a shift system. If the show starts at 12 and that day, we just do it to make it easier on each other. Darren might come in an hour early. I'll just come 30 minutes early. The next day, we'll do the opposite, right? We'll just have a good teamwork kind of effort. It's very easy. Everybody on the team is pretty easygoing and pretty good as long as there is what? Communication. Oh, you guys are good. Okay, you guys can start running right now. It's the show. Okay, be courteous and build rapport with other vendors. They may become your best customers. That's a very big key. You might want to write this down so you never forget it. Because, like, for example, when I get to an event, if it's a new event or if there's new vendors around me, the first people I want to talk to are the people around me. Because they might become your best customers throughout the event. You might never even have to pitch them ever, but they see you pitch it to other people and they're like, tell me about these guys. That has happened millions of times, ultimate sets like that, because they're vendors, they are business owners, they have the money, and they like the stuff, and they hear you do it over and over again. And then they see those old ladies that tell you, I've had it for like 100 years. I'm like, we haven't been around 100 years. They're like, no, you have been around. I'm like, no, we haven't. But that's how excited they get. So don't sit in and disruptive to other cookware vendors. So sometimes there's other vendors that sell cookware demos, right? They do cookware demos at the shows. Don't be that person that goes there and wastes their time or pretend you're going to buy something. always be sensitive of that. If you go to like somebody else's booth and they're pitching somebody, just be very remote so they like don't think you're a customer and then they leave that other person to talk to you and now they lost the other person. Does that make sense? You start to understand that very quickly just by the first time you ever do an event. It's really freaking cool though, how you just learn the things, the etiquette of working a booth. We utilize a low-key, relaxed, assertive, and more educative selling style. So we're not pushy. We're more like education. We chop stuff for them. We show them the special and ask for the sale. Don't spend time texting your friends. Of course, we always have to put that since it's something that everybody loves to do nowadays. Okay, so during events, let's talk about that. If somebody walks to the booth and you ever come and they're like, how much is this? And you're like, oh, I haven't told you anything. You want to know the price? So in the beginning, you know, like when you've never done something like that, you're very intimidated by that, right? You're like, no, but usually I do like a 45-minute demo before I ever tell somebody the price. Why are you asking me the price right now? Why are you doing that to me? That's how you feel, right? But it doesn't matter. Those people are like that. They want to know the price. And very often you might tell them the price and they're like, ooh, I can't never do that. So they'll walk away. Or they'll be like, really? Why is that? Right? So you just never know. But if you don't tell them the price, then they feel like you're hiding something. And then you lost them. Right? So you don't ever want to do that. Openly quote the prices confidently. Don't be defensive. Don't ask them, you know, well, can I show you something? No, just give them the price. I'm like, well, it's normally $3,300, $3,370, but we have it on sale here for $2,789, and you can spread it out over 5 payments. Have you heard of Cutco before? Boom, right? And then you kind of go into your thing. So just be like calm and confident. That always wins. And that's, you know, for anything. Be a trustworthy team player. Communication, trustworthy. Rotate when slow. So we have a system that we pretty much do one person at a time and to leave it basically to chance. Because unfortunately, there's never a way to be sure that you deserve this person or that person. There's nothing like that, right? So we have a rotation system where when it's busy, you're talking to somebody, the other person talking to somebody, whoever comes to the booth next goes to the person that's done selling first, right? But if it's slow, we have a rotation system and it basically goes to chance. So sometimes you might get like somebody that just comes in, it's like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for Cutco. Can I get this set? And it's like, oh, $3,000 in like 5 minutes. That happens, right? Meanwhile, the person next to you, or maybe that happens to the person next to you, and then you get that person that's like, oh no, oh my gosh, these are so expensive. I can't do that. Blah, blah, blah. They spend like 30 minutes with them and they buy nothing. That happens all the time, right? But you become so much stronger when you can like not let that affect you. Because guess what? That will happen to you a different time. Literally. You just have to keep going, keep going. You can't. It's very emotional sometimes. You guys think like your appointments are emotional? It's like a little roller coaster. You're like, oh no! Sometimes you want to kill the person next to you because they got a good person, right? And you're like, oh, I can't think that way. I can't think that way. Like, you literally have to have that conversation. And then when it happens to you, you're going to have to be very nice and respectful too, because, you know, you're like, yeah! And then they're like, I'm sub-0 for the day. You know? So just make sure that we're always professional. We give the best because the customers deserve our best every time. And everything else will flow. Does that make sense? By the way, if you guys have any questions, make sure you write them down because you might forget. Oh, that's a good one. It's your responsibility to cover any shifts that you agreed to and you're on the schedule. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. My grandmother died of cancer 3 years ago. I had a show. Well, I couldn't make it. I had to pay for it. I'm the coordinator. I could have found all kinds of reasons to make something happen. Now, the first step to do is to communicate with the team member that's working the event, see if another team member then can cover for you, right? But if they're all on events and we can't find anybody to cover for you, it's your responsibility. You know, it's like you have your mortgage for your house, you decide not to sleep in it for the next 3 weeks. I mean, it doesn't matter. No, I mean, I'm just saying, sometimes it's important for people. They're like, well, but it's not fair. I can't. I'm like, I get it, but is it fair for the other person? Also, no. So, and you know, one of those things that I always tell people is that what goes around comes around, right? So that might happen for you today, but one day it's going to happen to you, to them, and you can step up, right? So it all comes back to us, but it's important for you to know that once you agreed on a shift, it's your shift. So make sure you talk to your parents, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friends, whatever it could be on your schedule. You need to know before you ever agree on a shift, because once you're on the schedule, it's yours. So be dressed in a button-down shirt, khaki pants. When you come field training, we kind of let you dress down just a tiny bit, so more like a polo or something, so people don't try to talk to you. They can tell that those people are working and this person's training, right? Most of the time when you're training, we'll actually make you go not behind the booth, almost like you were a customer. So that way, the person think you're just walking around. It doesn't make it awkward, right, for the conversation. So you're responsible for bringing your demo kit to show potential customers, prospects, participate in the food cutting demos. So we do cutting demos at the booth, by the way. That's fun. That's actually the fun part. We have like a cutting board, and we have potatoes, celery, carrots, bread, and usually grapes. And the grapes is more for like cutting, like with a trimmer. It's like demonstrating basically the double D edge. You know, it's more fun than just cutting like with rope and leather, because then the people feel like they're in the kitchen. They're standing up, they're in front of a cutting board, and they feel like they're in a kitchen as well and using the knives, right? So especially now, I don't cut nearly as much food as I used to, but especially when you're in the beginning, it helps when you're like nervous a little bit, you don't know what to do, just make them cut a bunch of stuff. I see like trainees, they're like, I'm like, okay, you're cutting way too much food. Like, you need to start talking. But that educational aspect of it makes it easier to build rapport with people, and also educate them on the knives. So, couple of things that are very, very important. We represent the Cutco product there. And so it's important to keep a booth clean at all times. If you ever find yourself watching me or being at a booth with me, you'll be like, you'll probably hate me for the first hour, because I'm gonna like, clean this. And you'll see me cleaning all the time. Like, basically that's what I do the whole time I'm there. I'm constantly cleaning and putting stuff down, cleaning, putting stuff down. Because we're selling an expensive product. People cannot come and then they see a knife here, this knife's over here, that knife's on top of it. It has plenty of carrots residue on it. Like, that doesn't make people want to buy it. Does that make sense? So it's got to be clean at all times, even cleaner than when you're on an appointment. It has to be clean at all times. So keep cleaning. See, clean as you go. Keep cleaning. That's how important it is. And I'll tell you, I get so proud when I see people that I've trained, and like I go to the booth and I watch, and they're like cleaning and cleaning, and I'm like, I did something right. Get to know your colleagues. Find a cohesive selling style that complements the people you work with. That's very important. Like, everybody on my team, even though they've gotten most of the similar training and most of the similar things, but they still have a different personality, right? Like, Grant has a different personality, than probably Kirsten has. So what happens is, in a home, right, it will be the same thing. You have a different personality. So when you're there, it's important to try to complement that, when you're working at the booth. Because people, when they walk by the booth, they can feel that there's positive energy behind that booth. And it makes them want to buy more. Yes. Does that make sense? And that's what we always go for. We go for that energy that's really positive. Now, the last part is very, very important. It's called rep of record. So rep of record is something that we've been enforcing for the last year. Before, we had an unspoken system. This is very important. Very, very important. We had an unspoken rep of record, which is if somebody comes to the booth and they say that they've bought from Andy or whatever, it's like, not talking to them. right? It's like, or you can talk to them like, oh, okay, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. Cool, done. But when you are on our program, there's no exception. You don't have to like basically ask the person if they bought from me or from Darren or from whatever. You don't have to do that because I give everybody on the team a list of everybody's people that are eligible for rep of record. And at the end of the day, you have to check which of those orders are not yours. And by the way, I write up orders for Taylor Max all the time. He writes up orders for me. But the idea is two things. Number one, we keep each other's customers. We can like keep the nurturing. Number two, you are going to get compensated. So you get 15% for writing up that order. So it's not like you completely don't get anything. You get 15%. But I will tell you though, don't try to spend like 3 hours selling to my customers when you could probably talk to another customer that could be 50% or 30%, whatever you're at. Does that make sense? So if you're already engaged with the customer, they tell you that they're my customer. They'll be like, oh, you're in this, okay, well, let me write this up then. I'm not gonna try to sell you anything. That's not the idea. The idea is that we're all a team and we're helping each other and we're respecting each other's customers. You know, it becomes less confusing for a customer when every time they get an order, it has my name on it and they know that it's their rep of record. So we compensate the people that write up orders for each other, and it's 15%. And that goes for the booth sales and for the service call sales. So anything that happens at ours, as long as you're on our show team, you have to respect that. So eventually, we would like the company to get to that point where it's always like that. But right now, the Differential team is that. And it has, and by the way, like for example, Mariana sold like a $2,500 order at a show for Jordan. And I think the show is like, she only sold like $4,000 and 2,500 of it was for Jordan. That wasn't fun. She still made some money, right? She made 15% of that 2,500. But then it turns out that that person really liked her, ended up referring her to somebody else. And then she got another, whatever it was, like I think $1,000 or something. So you never know what can happen, right? So just be professional, do whatever you got to do, and it will come back to you. It will come back to you. So we actually, at this point, we actually get excited when we have an order for people. In the beginning, everybody was hesitant. I can't do that. But now, it's more like, I got an order from Mariana. It's kind of cool, right? And it makes them more excited to do it for us, too. So after the events, follow up with your leads 100%. I don't know why it's missing. Keep your living in the corridor. Yeah, keep me.
Don't lose you.
I think it's probably keep your division informed with the stats. You have to give the stats, which I'll show you guys in a minute. Help other team members through field training. Send thank you notes to your clients. Who's done that before, by the way? Lots of you. That's great. Stay organized and keep your sample kit tip-top. And by the way, if you ever get to that point and you're part of our team, one of the things I will highly recommend right away is to get a database system, which you can keep all your customers organized with their emails, phone numbers, and even birth dates and stuff like that. I mean, if you see my database system, you'll see how amazing that is. That's how I send emails to my customers every month, and I can send thank you emails. And the cool thing about the database is that I already have the thank you email written. I already have the actual wording. I have it for new customers. I have it for past customers. So all I got to do, I have an assistant. She just goes, she puts in the new customer, and then she goes and click on a button, and she said, thank you, email, boom, and it just sends it to her. So, and you guys can do that too. You know, at your level, you don't have that many customers and things going on. You got to do it yourself. I didn't get an assistant. Until 2007, so 10 years ago. So the first 6 years, I didn't have an assistant. I just did it all myself. And it's good to do it all yourself first because you understand the system, right? So you can teach it to your assistant one day if you ever get to that point. So build your sample collection for demos at the booth. Like one of the things that we do every end of the summer is that I have a conversation with everybody on the team, making sure like what do they have, what don't they have. Like Taylor Max and I are doing this on Friday, where we're gonna sit down and look at like everything that he has and to see like what else he could order to make his things completely awesome. Right at this point, now I have like a show kit and I have everything completely independent from my home kit. So you don't have to be there. At first, you would do everything you got is everything you got, right? That's what stays for probably a while, but eventually that's what you want. Continue to learn from your training kit and others who are more successful than you. All right, let's talk about show costs. Who's excited? Nobody's excited. We all wish it was free. I know. So, show costs. Each booth is rented on a contract signed by the division coordinator, which is me, and booked through our Olean Fair and Show team. So, there are 4 main costs associated with each event. The first one, and you guys probably want to write this down. There's a fixed cost of the booth rent. So that's when I told you it could be $100, it could be $1,000, right? That's the booth rent. Number 2 is the variable cost of groceries and literature. That usually costs only $20, maybe. Now, just to kind of share with you guys a little bit here. So these are some of the things that you spend some money on, but that are really worth it, and I'm going to explain to you guys why. Well, first are the home show order forms. So I'll just explain that here. Home show order forms, the biggest difference with the home show order form is that you have a spot for the event name, and there's an event number. So when you go online and you Rollo, you got to select, you know, it says realtor order or this kind of order, right? There's an event order. You want to click on that because it's going to mix it. It's going to put it into the event and categorize it. So I'll get a report at the end and know exactly how much you sold, which makes it easier. Back in the day, we had to do a lot of things like manually. But this is so awesome that we have that now. When it's service calls, you also want to do that. So you're going to put the name here, and then everything else is pretty much the same. There's a little bit more space here, I think, to write other stuff, but everything else is the same. There's also a charge to rep section, which I don't think you have in the regular order form, is because sometimes we give deals at the shows and we have to charge a rep account. You want to avoid doing that, but it's there for you if you need it. This is another thing that you definitely want to invest money in. Who's ever seen this form before? You have?
Oh, I haven't
Never? What is this form? Do you know? Can you tell me? Service form. It's a service form. So I have a ton of these at home in my car. And when I go to people's houses and they need to send their knives back, I use this form. So why do I use this form? Well, first, it makes me look like a professional. So it's great. Second, it makes it easier for the customer because it has the address to send it back. It has a spot for this. I fill it out with the customer every time when they're sending things back. But the last reason is if you're over $100,000 in career sales, that per customer becomes now attached to you. So if they ever call Cutco and buy an order, guess who gets the credit? You. Yeah. So you want to use this form because it has your rep number right here. Okay? So it does cost money to order it, and sometimes we just order it in bulk. And when you get the show kit, you get some of them, and then later on you can order them separately, but they're totally worth it. I have like literally trays of like those things at my house and I've picked up a lot of customers like that. Like some even that didn't buy anything from me, and then I helped them send something back. They became my customer, and then now they get my promotion because they're on my rep of record, and bam, now they get all my catalogs and all that stuff, and then they ended up buying from me. That happens constantly. And then there's also the notepad. We'll talk about the notepad in a second. Set up and break down association fees. Do you guys remember how much is set up? 15. How much is breakdown? 15. Very good. You guys are good. All right. And then the last thing is the display kit. So the display kit is basically all the Cutco that you would need to put on the table. Cutco offer a ton of things at discount. We don't have to worry about that right now, but just to give you an idea, you could get an ultimate set, a homemaker set, and a galley for $700. All three of these sets, but they do say for display only on it, because that's what it's for, and because it's for the events program. So you have to be only on an events show to be able to get that. But it looks amazing when you have those three sets at the table. You know, and sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of money for me to invest. Well, do you want to sell one of those sets? Because if you sell one of those sets, they'll pay for all of it. And then all the other events you have, you'll keep selling them, right? So that's kind of how important it is to invest in that. So that is probably the one of the most important things. Then you invest in tables at usually about $200. With $2,500, you can have the perfect booth. With $4,000, you can have like the very luxurious booth, okay? And with probably $1,500, you can be perfectly fine to work with. And of course, with just the knives you have, you could sell something, okay? So it just becomes better and better and better. But just so you guys know, one of the things I'm gonna work out with Jeff is we're gonna invest into one big kit, and then we're gonna have people pay per show, per event to rent it, right? To just make it a little bit easier to get started. Eventually, people will want to have their own. Why do you want to have your own? Can somebody tell me?
So that way if someone is running it, then you can't rent it because they already have it.
So it's kind of like what you're saying, but not exactly. But you're going the right direction. Because if there's many events going on that weekend, right, and you have your own kit, you can get first priority to run it. Does that make sense? There's no more kits, but you have one, you get the priority to run it. And that pays for itself. So that's the thing that's like, it puts you in that higher position. Does that make sense? So I think I've already explained. You guys understand all the costs, right? Cool. Okay, so a little bit about the shift selection here. So, because that's important for you guys to know. The first one goes by seniority, then it goes by territory. So the seniority, the coordinator goes first. So why does the coordinator go first? Not just because they like me, okay? It's because I do a lot of things to deserve it. So I don't get paid for this. I don't get paid for a lot of things that I do for training. But my pay is basically priority. Does that make sense? So even if you find a show, I can take it. Now, most of the time, I won't. 90% I won't. 99% I won't. And if I do, I'm gonna work it with you. I'm not gonna just take it and not give it to you. So you can be sure of that. But especially when it's a big event, if it's like a small little event, I mean, I'm never gonna want to do that. I know most of the events anyway. So the bottom line is, it's like it really doesn't matter. But it's important when we have some new events to represent the product good, and that's one of the reasons why we go by that seniority. So coordinator selected first, core group lead selects second, and then the new staff selects third. Now, when you go through that, last month's sales is very important. Last month's sales is more important than career sales. And the reason that is because sometimes people might have sold more, but they're not really performing recently. They're sitting on their butt waiting for the next show. Well, guess what? You're not gonna be rewarded for sitting on your butt. You're gonna be rewarded for working. Does that make sense? And we also want them to be performing because we want them to have what? Money. Right. We want their pocket to not be hurting, okay? Because we want people to perform. We want you to do well. And the only way you're gonna do well is that your pocket is not hurting. So that's why we want people performing. Does that make sense? It makes absolutely no difference for me if your pocket is hurting, other than the fact that I don't want it to hurt because I want you to be in a better position. Does that make sense? Personally, it's not gonna do anything to me. But as a big picture, it does, because I want my people to do well. It's my team after all, and I care about that. I told you guys. When my name is on the line, I care. I care anyway. But recent booth sales also matters. So, but recent booth sales is people that are growing and learning. So that one is the last important one because obviously people want to sell more at the booth. So, but they might be like in a position to grow and learning. So that's why it's the last one. By territory. So after seniority, it goes by territory. And what that means is that, let's say there's a there's a show in Fort Myers and it's a big event, even though there's somebody that is in Fort Myers in training, well, I or Jordan or Mariana or Taylor Max get first pick to go work that event, even though we're not there. Does that make sense? But once we don't want it, then it goes to the person that lives there. So, for example, let's say you're in Fort Lauderdale, you're a new team member, right, Lewis? Are you in Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Hannah, where are you from? Fort Myers. Oh, that's a perfect example. Okay. So let's say you guys were both on the Fair and Show team, right? And then there's an event that we found. Somebody put it on the potential list or whatever. None of us can do it, right? So now it goes to the two of you. Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it first? Most likely her, because that's her area. Does that make sense? Even though you're both on the show team. You're right, you're both on the show team, but that would more lean towards that, right? But if he's performing more though, then you'll go to him, right? So that's why performance goes first before territory. So performance as well. It's always one point.
In a lot of space.
It always is, guys. It always is. The numbers don't lie. CPO will set you free.
Money talks.
That's right.
CPO will say you.
Events.
We should get that book.
So if you find a show, like I said earlier, an order for shift selection will be determined before each meeting. So I usually have a pre-selected, we already have events that people have been working for a long time. So those people get those things first. We obviously want continuity when it comes to those events. However, sometimes the schedule doesn't work. Like there's plenty of time that Taylor and Max ended up getting an event that Darren's been doing because Darren has another event that coincides with it. That opens up the spot for somebody else, right? So all those things happen. So if you're around, if you always do what you're supposed to do, and you're performing, it's called the big league. The what?
To the big league.
You called it the big leagues.
That's right. So, and we, by the way, we'll go out of our way to accommodate each member's things. It's like, I'm not a hardball, like, wow, you're an idiot. Why aren't you doing that? Like, it's not going to be like that, right? If we can make it work, we're going to make it work. We want everybody to be happy. That's why our team is solid and strong, and we always help each other. And that's, and you know, I'll tell you, sometimes people, it's a very competitive thing. So people have, you know, they want this, they want that, they want this, they want that, they want this. That's why we have the systems. Because then I'm like, well, that's the system. It may not work for you today, but tomorrow it'll work for you, right? So we all live by it, and it makes things a lot easier. Couple pictures of some stuff, you know, booth selling. We don't discriminate. We love flatware, we love cookware, and we love knives. So we sell everything in the book. Don't get too excited about one thing. You want to sell everything, right? Okay, so let's become a professional kitchen solver. The reason I put this is because I kind of want to explain to you guys, you know, a big thing. And I don't know, I think if there's one thing that you will remember by the end of this meeting is that if you do get on this program, you're going to be a very big part at representing the Cutco product. Did you guys get that? Did you guys hear that enough time today? Okay, good. So, and part of that is to be a kitchen solver. A professional kitchen solver, yeah. Like you are a kitchen, like you're gonna solve all their issues in the kitchen. So what's their problem? Like a lot of times I ask people, and we're gonna talk about that in training. It's the discoveries of questions. So what are you looking for? You know, I've had people come and ask me like, well, I'm looking for a gift. I'm like, okay, well, what's your budget? I don't mind asking that question because I don't wanna go and try to pitch them a homemaker and then they're like, well, I would never spend that on that person, right? So instead, what I'll be like, okay, so what's your budget? How much do you love them?
That's a good question.
So I kind of make it like more like a fun thing, right? I'm like, do you like $200 love them or like $2,000 love them, right? So it's always kind of fun to be able to do that because it kind of makes them think, yeah, how much do I love them? So, you know, it's very interesting, and you might be able to meet them in the middle, right? But if you don't ask those questions, then you're like beating yourself against the wall trying to sell them a homemaker when they're really not going to spend more than like $150, right? You could have been done with that a long time ago and sell them more stuff for them instead, right? So you got to be aware of like things to be able to help people. So how can we solve it? And then make confident recommendations. People love your recommendations. Do you guys ever go to a store and you're trying a shirt and then you want the people's opinions on it, right? Like, how do you think? Yeah, right? Like, how do you think I look in those glasses? You ask them, right? Do you guys ever do that? Or you like, right? So it's the same thing for them. They come to the booth. They want your recommendation. Don't be like, well, I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, no, you should just get the complete set. It has everything. That is not an answer. You know what I'm saying? That is not going to help them make that decision, right? So it's important to be like, okay, well, let me show you like the different options. We have people like we have the basic set for people that don't cook. We have the set that's in between for people that, you know, they cook because they have to. And then we have the people that love to cook, right? And it doesn't mean that you might not sell them ultimate because of that, because you're trying to help them see through. And by the way, it's better for you to get that signature set. For sure, they're excited, they're happy, then force them to get an ultimate and then they cancel, right? And so people are more apt to cancel at shows, by the way, than on appointments. Because again, it's a professional environment, right? It's very low, but we might get at least, I would say on average, I'll have one order canceled per show. On average. Sometimes it's more like reduced, like they reduce the order, right? They're like, oh, I really don't want that. But it happens, and you have to be ready to be prepared for that. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you won't sell that to the person later. You know, me very communicative with people because don't freak out. When somebody says they need to cancel, don't freak out about it. Call them, talk to them, communicate. You never know. So, and then have fun with the process. Okay, approaches. I kind of did a little bit of the Cutco owner, non-Cutco owner for you. But this is some of the approaches that most of the time you're going to have. We have a script for Cutco owners. We have a script for non-Cutco owner. And then we have some things that we lead towards every time. And then we have some people that are dissatisfied for many different reasons. It might be because a rep promised them something and they didn't get it. We get those people that come and complain at the booth. that's yeah. So you've got some of those, yeah. So, you know, they promised them something, it didn't come. The color changed, you try to call them, they never answered the phone. Like, we get those people all the time. So we have to, like, get, like, you know, calling them, oh my gosh, really? I'm so sorry. Let me help you. Like, here's how I can help you. Let's call the 1-800 number. That's the form to do this. You know, just be helpful. You might gain a customer like that. I have gained so many customers solving their problems. It's awesome. Literally. Okay. Booth ethics. So who gets the order? So why do we have that? We have that because sometimes there's gray areas. So gray areas happen where you were talking to somebody and the person, for example, this is like probably the most common gray area. So I'm going to give it to you. I'm talking to somebody. Kevin is talking to somebody else, right? And he hears the next person that comes to the room and say, oh, I need to buy that set for what's her face. Then you drop your customer so you can go talk to the other one to buy it. Well, I'm sorry, you can do that all you want. But unless you're done with that first customer, I will have the right to take that order from you. So it's very important when you are with a customer that you finish with the customer. If you have to lead them to like, well, is there anything that you want me to help you with? If you can tell that they're not really budging, but you cannot just because you heard somebody else that's like ready to buy to drop them. You never know. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. I was at Epcot, the Food and Wine Festival, one of our biggest events of the year, and I'm working with this other person. She talked to that person was complaining about something, and then she heard somebody else call and said that they wanted something. So she dropped that person and goes and talked to the other customer. Meanwhile, I finish and I go talk to them, and then I sell them $1,500. And then she's like, well, you know that's my order. I'm like, really? So you're allowed to leave this person and then you still get that one? It doesn't work that way. And you know that. So it's very important. Sometimes people, it's not greed. It's maybe a little greed. And just, you know, we're human, right? And sometimes you want, we want. It happens. And sometimes people, the worst of them comes out when they have that opportunity they see right there. But that's why we have systems to make sure that it gets resolved. So in this case, you know, the person that wrote up the order that didn't leave the other person got it, right? So now, let's say that person had left and came back to talk to her, she would have gotten the order. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's a different though. She was still there. She was left for another customer. So that's different. Did you have a question?
Yeah. Are you allowed to just do that? You can leave a customer and then go to a more prospective customer.
Well, if you leave them, you lose. That's exactly what I'm saying.
No, I know. What
You shouldn't do that. Correct.
Okay. I'm
So
like,
the direct
you can't
question,
see
yes, it's not the right thing to do ever, right? But of course, somebody could do it. They're just gonna lose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they're also gonna lose trust in the rest of the team too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negativity that comes with it, for sure. So treat other reps how you expect them to treat you, right? So make sure you do that. And then if there's an issue and you're not sure about something, communicate. Because one thing I'll tell you is that sometimes, at this point of the game, all of our team members have been around for a long time. They're very easy. They know how to communicate with each other. But when you have new people that haven't had experience, they might not know how to communicate. So that will happen. So when that day happens, just say, hey, you know, can we talk about it? Can we like figure it out? It's 10 times better to do that than to be like at the booth nervous. Oh my gosh, did I get this order? Am I gonna get this order? What did it do? I'm so pissed. And then you're not talking to the next customer and you're losing sales by the minute. Okay? That happens. I've seen people do that. So for me, whenever there's an issue at the booth, I'm like, all right, let's talk about this. Like, it's not for me. Okay. Same customers go to a lot of different shows. Like, there are customers that they love going to shows. Like, they just love it. They go to shows, and some of them, they love wasting people's time too. So over time, you'll figure out who is like that. They just love to talk. They just come. I have a customer. Her name is Barbara Walters. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't say that on the thing. It's not the real Barbara Walters. It's another one. But she loves coming, and she talks, and I'm like, oh, Barbara, you know, I'll call you so we can talk. It's like, because there's another customer here that wants to buy something. And so, you know, that happens. So you have to kind of learn how to do that. Don't make them feel that you don't care, but at the same time, you want to balance it out. Sometimes I'm like, hey, can you help me with this person? Tell them how much you love cacao. And it's like, boom, I redirect the energy, right? So you just have to use any situation, you know, that you can to be a positive one. Honesty, integrity are required. Be helpful all the time. Keep track of your products and others. Do not steal. Okay, very important. Do not steal. If you steal, so just so you guys know, the rule for us is if you don't know who stole or it's lost, then the booth has to split it and pay for half of the cost. So no matter what, you end up having to pay. So don't ever try to steal because you're going to end up paying anyway. So be on top of things. It's never happened in our event, so we don't have that problem. People steal from us all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah, little pocket knives. It's usually the pocket knives. So now we put them right in front of us so they can't get it.
That's like kind of concerning.
Oh yeah, it happens. I mean, it's not like every show, but at least I would say once or twice a year we lose something. Give customers a realistic impression of when they'll hear from you. So kind of like when you get that service call, give them a realistic impression of when they'll hear from you. Service calls. So service calls, the Cutco owners are really some of the best people to sell to because they already have the product and you make them feel great about their investment. You give them service and then you ask them for an order. So I know most of you don't know how to do a service call. If you ever make it on a team, you will have to also know how to do that because that's going to be very important, very vital for your business to be able to multiply your sales. And I'll probably have Mariana work that out because she's certified too. It's a great way to gain testimonials. You can see some of the manual on Vector Connect too, but we'll have a full-blown training for service calls. And then field training with other people. I know some of you have already gone field training. I know Luke even went with Taylor Max one time. There's always something you can learn and have a different perspective when you're the one watching, right? And when you're the one learning. Who has a sharpener? Most of you? Okay. Before you invest in the Ed Reed sharpener, who has an Ed Reed sharpener?
No one does.
Do you have an Ed Reed sharpener? The one that looks like that? Yeah? So if you do have it, make sure you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, don't use it. Okay? Don't screw up the customer's knives until you do. And we'll definitely have a training for that coming up soon. So cookware, obviously this is not a cookware talk, but just to kind of give you like a couple of the things that are very important. Cuts cooking time in half, low moisture, which means healthy, dishwasher safe, stay cool knobs and handles. The metal tools are okay to use with. Famous Cutco Forever guarantee. Cutco cookware has been around longer than the knives, which is one of the things that I tell my customers. They've been around longer. We bought Wherever cookware. So that's a very big deal because like it's been around a lot longer than the knives. So when people ask me, well, tell me about your cookware. I'm like, you thought the knives were good? So I sold a ton of cookware during the push. And then keys to success. Medium to low is all you need to know. When you cook, don't look. And then watch the DVD that comes with your set. So those are kind of like some of the cool little things and points. But obviously, when you cook, don't look. That means when you like close the lid, don't keep opening it to check it. Does that make sense? Yeah. You're like, what? Don't ever look?
Look away. Look away.
So, who here, like, you guys all heard the cookware talk at the conference? Yeah. All of you? That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
It
People
smelled so
from
good.
Regal.
Delicious. Yeah, the cake was nice.
It smelled so good.
I gotta tell you, I was the person that when the first time they did that for me, I went home and I got it done within a week. Out here had a little saucepan. I bought the skillet. Like they have like those crazy prices that they had at the conference. I bought that skillet and the other frying pan and I made the pineapple cake upside down the minute I got it. And I do it for people. I might actually do it tonight on an appointment and just like do the batter and do the cake and put it in my 1 quart saucepan. It is so impressive to do for a customer. Love doing cooking demos. So that is something that also that most of you probably haven't done, but once you're past over 10 grand, I mean, you can do it. You can have a lot of fun with it. I've never had a no sale from a cooking demo. Never. Not once.
Yeah, it's right.
You feed them. You know what I'm saying? They're happy. So, business gifts, you know, the engraving that we have over here. We talked about that earlier. Just wanted to remind you guys a little bit. Those are like the main things. We have knives, we have cookware, we have business gifts, we have flatware and all that stuff. And look at the manual. So if you missed it earlier, make sure you write it down to follow up and look at that. All right, here's the Fair and Show notepad. So one thing that you'll find at a show is that every vendor or exhibitor, they're fighting for customers' attention, right? They want their money. So you have people that go to shows that they end up spending $10,000 just at the show. They buy this, they buy that, they buy something to like fix this, to do like a pergola for their house, and they buy some knives, and then they buy this, right? So one thing that's really important, one of the reasons why we use the notepads is because we want people to remember us, right? If they stop by our booth, we want to quote them a price if they don't buy it right then and there. Obviously, if the people walk away, chances of them coming back is probably 10%. Probably 10%. Maybe even less than that. So, like, no matter how much, have you ever had this person, like, you truly believe they're going to call you back, right? You're like, no, there's no way they're not going to call me back. That person is so real. He gave me the handshake of a man. He's going to call me back. Yeah, didn't happen, right?
It's so sad.
It's so sad, right? I mean, I've had customers swear to me like, "No, well, I'm gonna be the exception." I'm like, I'm like, you know, people that tell me they're gonna be the exception, they buy at least one thing from me, because then they become my customer, and then they know and love the product. And sometimes I get people who end up buying that one thing. Like the customer that I'm going to see after this meeting, his name is Jim Torrey. I talked to him for probably an hour at a show the first time I met him. And he told me, like, I'll call you back, I'll call you back. I'm like, you know what, Jim? We spent so much time together. If you really think you're gonna call me back, why don't you just buy one knife and you can use it and try it, then you can think about it. Because otherwise, what are you gonna think about? The $1,000 set, $1,000 set, $1,000 set, maybe next time. That's what's gonna happen once you go home. But if you get that one knife, you'll know why you should maybe consider investing more.
That's what
Long story short, he bought a cheese knife from me, convinced him. I wrote that down to follow up with them. You got a lot of orders like that at the booth. Wrote it up to follow up with them. Within 6 months, I sold him a homemaker. Then I upgraded him to an Ultimate the following summer. Then I upgraded him to a Sentoku homemaker and changed his block and put like steak knives. Then last Christmas, he bought an Ultimate set for his parents. And this past push, I actually missed his response to the text message that I sent. He's like, "Oh, I like that sportsman's deal that you have." I basically have a sportsman's deal, and you guys will see that here, where it's like $900 to get all the sporting knives together. And he got my email. And he said, "I like that sportsman's deal." So I'm gonna go to his house, and it's probably gonna be like $900 from one cheese knife. But if I didn't sell him that cheese knife, he would have never called me. Chances are, never called me. So make sure that you always try, no matter what, to make somebody your customer, so they can be like acquainted with Cutco. So Notepad is designed to provide a client a visual aid that is clear and easy to understand, right? So when you quote them prices, let's say you have an Ultimate set, you write down Ultimate set, retail price, show special, and you write the prices discounted, bam. There's a copy, you give them a copy, you put their name, their phone number, you take their phone number too, you put your name and your phone number, and at the end of the show, sometimes by Monday, you can call some of those people and close some of those orders, right? Most of the time, I close most of my orders on the spot. If they walk away, they're pretty much done. They're not going to get anything. But sometimes I might have like 2 or 3 people like that, and then I might close like one of them at the end. But you see, if you do all the little things that you got to do, they add up. Does that make sense? You close most of your orders. Then you have some extra people. Then you close those people. Then you have your follow-up. Then you have all that. It just adds up into like an amazing event. So that's why we have that. And so that kind of keeps something for them to walk around and think about it. It's more visual. They have it. Plus, sometimes it's customized. It's exactly what they wanted. You give them an extra stuff for free. You tell them, if you come back today, I'll give you an extra peeler for free. Blah, blah, blah. Give them a reason to come back. People like little deals.
I like what you did there.
How's going on? Should we do it again?
Yeah.
Do it one more time. Oh, God.
Catalog requests. You know, when people tell me, can I have a catalog? I tell them, well, we actually don't really give out catalogs because most of the time people end up throwing them away. But here's my business card, and you can look at the website. Bottom line is, it's a waste of money. Like that one person that might actually use the catalog is that person that'll probably go online and check it out anyway. You don't need to invest in that. That's a waste of money. We've done that before. Don't let people fool you. They won't call you. Like, we've done it millions of times. Handling discount catalogs. So that's very important during the fall, especially during the fall. You get people that come and say, well, I saw this for this price in the catalog. They got a discounted catalog from Cutco. You guys ever heard of that? Okay. So when they get the discounted catalog, you got to give them that price. You can't give them anything for free because it's already discounted. You can't give them anything for free. It won't go through at all. And whatever the CPU of that, whatever the line 1 is, so let's say the paring knife, let's say it's a paring knife for $62 and it's like 50. you're going to get 75% of that as your CPO. 75% of the 50, right? So you don't need, which is 37.50. So you don't, that's going to be your CPO, right? So yes. So what you always want to do is like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can write it up for you. But like, let me show you, we also have some other deals. We have like a buy 3, get 1 free. And then sometimes you can like build them up and then you still get a better deal than that one thing. And they feel better and you get better CPO. Does that make sense? But you never want to say, well, I can't do that because you lost them, okay? Right. So always do that. Okay, show specials. I'm going to pass this around. This is kind of like fun for you to see. We spent a lot of time, and there was a lot of show specials out there in the company, but show specials idea came from my team. So we put it together about 5 years ago. And so you can kind of look around. These are some stuff. Just pass it all around so they can see. And it's just basically visuals. And the idea is to have like the specials, and it kind of takes away from you just trying to quote whatever price you want top of your head. It makes it very easy, very real. Like, this is the special, and you can't go around that. Does that make sense? Or if you go around that, you say, well, you know what? I'll throw in this for you for free from me, from my stuff, right? So it makes it much more urgent for them to buy it, and they appreciate it a lot more because knowing that they got that extra special for you, from you. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Did you make your own set here?
Yeah, you
I
like
want to
that?
like make this
Huh?
Did you make your own set here?
That's my set. I made it, literally. It's a Sentoku homemaker.
That's so cool.
I have a lot of customers that have an Ultimate and a Sentoku homemaker at their house. Didn't you sell one?
Amazing.
They probably thought it was a lot of stuff. It's so amazing, dude. There's so many knives. You have that Ultimate steak knife and then Sentoku homemaker table knives. It's amazing. It's not everybody that's gonna do that, but some people love the knives. Some people love knives, so why not, right? It makes why not is what it is. Okay. So approaches, building value and prospecting. So this, we'll talk more about that during training. But when it comes to building value, those are the 3 things that are important. You got to build value in yourself. Like, the people have to see how much you are successful and you are somebody they want to buy from you. In Cutco, obviously, and in the company. It's a very big thing when you are at a booth that you're building the value of the company. Because people love, like, you tell them we've been around for 69 years, right off the bat, that's like a big deal for them, right? Or American made, forever guaranteed, and all that. We've been on the History Channel, and all the cool things that we talk about. That is something that's part of building it. Then prospecting, we have discovery questions. You guys remember some of the discovery questions we talked about earlier? Like, for example, what's your budget, right? Or like, what do you do in the kitchen? What do you do mostly in the kitchen? Oh, vegetables. Awesome. Let me show you this. And then you show them the different options. So we'll talk about that, the discovery questions, qualifying quickly. So what were you looking for? You know, after you do like your presentation, so to speak, you can tell them, hey, so do you want me to show you the prices of like individual pieces or the prices of the sets? So we do like qualifying questions so we can know where to go with the people. Does that make sense? Yeah. So all of that will go through training. And of course, nonverbal communication. I know my sheets are awesome. Don't take them. Take pictures from them though. No problem.
At the end, we could have.
Perfect. Order writing is very simple, guys. You guys know how to do this. But rep name, rep number, exact show name, like I said. Billing address is a big one. You have a lot of people that come to shows that are sometimes in the process of moving. Like, it just happens a lot. You have to be very, 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 very attentive and asking people, is this the billing address of the card? Don't just say, oh, what's your address? Is this the billing address of the card? Okay, is that why you also want it shipped? Make sure you ask those questions. Because you don't want on Monday having 10 orders, there's a problem orders because of that. Okay? Clearly marked ship to, and then product given at show. So why do we have this? During the kiosk season only. only at kiosks, we have products there to sell to people, and we hand it to them. Yeah, it gets really fun because they can go home with it, right? So you want to separate if you're shipping something or if it's something that comes from the inventory that has to be marked separately, product you're gonna show. Always get the email so you can have that for your marketing in the future. Very, 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 very important. And also always, always, always ask for cell phone numbers, right? Very important. Complete all product information, item numbers, colors, quantities. That's very, very important, guys. Let me tell you, when you sell stuff at a home show, people are very picky. Like sometimes when you go to the house, you might send them the wrong color. They never call you to ask for it. That happens all the time. I've had people like, yeah, they sent me the wrong color, but like whatever. I don't care. That happened to you twice. See? But when they are at a show though, when they are at a show, they are going to call you. And they are going to call you pissed off. So don't screw that up. You want to have the correct colors and all that stuff. And then charge to rep, like I said earlier. We can cover that during training. Cutting food. We talked so much about that. Yeah, so here you guys see it. I wrote it down: celery, carrots with sentoku knives, peeling the carrots, tomatoes and grapes, orange pear knife, cheese knife for potatoes. Who cuts the cheese potatoes with a cheese knife?
And apples.
Yes.
Yeah. Apples.
Very good.
Apples.
Doing those food demos are really cool. Okay, so we're almost done. Can I get everybody's attention? We can talk all we want after. So something called food art. When you're at a booth, like we do like cool stuff to attract people. So for example, sometimes we turn like a pineapple, we put a little heart in it, we put like a top on it. We turn like potatoes into like little swans and stuff like that. Like people become really good at doing things like that and it attracts people. They walk in like, wow, how did you do that? Nice. Right? So it kind of makes it like create that thing. Just be creative. Darren is the best at doing all of that. He can make roses out of stuff and I mean, he does a really cool stuff. Like a zucchini, he makes sharks. He can make a little shark out of zucchini. I mean, he makes really cool stuff like that. I just try to smell good. Okay. So, why should you bring to your shift? So if you're ever on a shift, never forget the 7 C's, right? Your clipboard to write up orders, the Cutco that you need, cash because you might want some and need some, checkbook, which is not really that necessary, that's old school, business cards, a calculator, and a calendar. By the way, another tip that we always teach people is to set up their service calls from the show, right there. You set it up. Imagine the show is over. Yeah, you sold all that, and then like Monday morning, you have like 5 appointments already. It's fun, really fun. So other items to consider: breakfast, lunch, dinner, comfortable shoes. In notebook, comfortable shoes, by the way, is very important. Very, very important. Any needed groceries, furniture training kits, specials, booklet, name tags, and of course, a positive attitude. Congratulations! You guys made it! Wow. Step 1! You made it to step 1. So now we have a few more minutes. Don't run away yet. True. These little pieces of paper, if you have not filled them out yet, I would love to have them. This does not necessarily say that you're going to be on the show team. It just says that you're interested, you want to be considered, or have a follow-up conversation with your division manager, your district manager, your branch manager, and then...
Yes, pass them in.
If you think this is like an excellent fit for you, maybe put a star next to your name. If you think this is like the perfect fit for you and you'd like to see what happens sooner rather than later, just so we know where you are. And make sure that you definitely write down the location. right? So the office and the division.
What if you're not
Can you write that down? And where you're gonna be.
That is so good. I love that. That is the best. Dude, Kate has made so many memes in childhood. This one.
Hey, can I have a look up? We'll do a little parent show training, parent show over here.
Can I be in it?
Yes. You're not in it. And I'm really
Wait, I'm gonna go stand in the middle.
You got a keyboard.
I'll try that. I'll try here. Just kidding.
Jeff, that might be broken. It's too broken.
Cute. We saw that.
Here's a new division manager.
Giovanni.
Was that you?
Yeah, I didn't say
No, it was great. I know. Chase. What? Nah. Yeah, it was. Oh, really?
You can get them.
Last of the bus.
You gotta
You sound the same.
One. Awesome.
We both sound good looking. Thank you.
You don't. One time.
All right, did I get everybody's papers?
Like that's so annoying.
If real quick, two things. If you already interviewed with me this morning from the pilot, and I didn't take your headshot for the spreadsheet, I need to take your headshot right now.
Can you start
And
this
then
formula?
2 of you asked to increase your withholdings,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't